How can you be sure that your baby carrier is good and safe for your baby's hips? Now, the hip thing comes up all the time in the land of baby wearing. And the most important thing to say is, number one, unless you have a family history of hip dysplasia, or your pediatrician or other medical practitioner has concerns about your baby's hips, the hip thing is not generally something you need to really worry about. Now, when it comes to being hip healthy, you have some baby carriers that are certified as so by the Hip Dysplasia Institute. However, it's not just about the baby carrier, it's also how well it's adjusted. So you could buy, for example, a hip healthy carrier, adjust it badly and have it unsupported for your baby's hips, and it won't be great for their hip development, or at least it won't be optimized. Equally, there are some smaller brands that maybe haven't got round to, or for various reasons aren't qualifying as hip healthy, and yet can be used really safely. So please don't worry too much about the label. It's really about how well it's adjusted. So for a sling wrap or carrier to be ideal for your baby's developing hips, what we're looking for is to make sure that they're supported along their seated width. That means supporting them from one knee pit to the other. Now, obviously this is quite a large baby. If you've got a newborn, their legs may be tucked right up in here, and that width may be quite narrow. So you don't need a really wide baby carrier. You certainly don't need to overstretch them. But what you want to make sure is that your baby's supported from one knee pit to the other in this nice spread squat position. So what you should see is that the height of your baby's knees is very slightly higher than your baby's bottom here. So when people talk about this M position, what they mean is that it goes up, down, up, down. Now, for some babies, maybe a slightly flatter M. For a newborn who's very tucked up with little froggy legs still, it may be a very tight M. But that's essentially what we're looking for. So nicely supported from knee to knee with knees higher up than their bum. Now, this is a Tula Explore carrier. It's a fantastic carrier, really supportive as long as it's adjusted correctly. So this is adjusted correctly for this size of baby. I'm now going to adjust it badly, or at least suboptimally. I'm taking it off its little poppers here, and I'm making this much narrower. So now my baby's legs are hanging or dangling down. Now, we see this all the time, and because adults' legs go straight up and down, and this can look understandably quite normal. Now, is this damaging for your baby? Well, unless they have any underlying hip conditions, there is no proven evidence to say this is damaging. What we do know is that it's not optimum. So ideally, we want babies in a much deeper seat so their hips can develop in a much more natural fashion. What this does mean, which is often my main concern, is that your baby will feel a whole lot heavier. When your baby's legs are dangling down like this in a narrow-based carrier, or a carrier that simply isn't wide enough to support them knee to knee, all their weight is pulling forwards and away from you, which is going to hurt your back. Now, if you're finding that your back hurts when you're using your baby carrier, if you're concerned that you may have outgrown your carrier, then this is often one of the main culprits. So first of all, check if your carrier is adjustable. There may be some Velcro tabs, some poppers, or some other adjustability in the base here. Then do make it wider so your baby is supported from knee to knee. Now again, don't need to stretch those knees. Just look at how you hold them in your arms, see how wide their knees naturally are apart, and adjust your carrier to fit that. Now, if you have got a very narrow based carrier, so the common ones we would see would be the Baby Bjorn Mini, some of the older Chico and Tomy carriers, things like that, and some of the other kind of more expensive ones you'll see in supermarkets or on Amazon, then those kind of ones generally won't last you that long because they're not width adjustable. So it's a good idea then to get in touch and see what carrier you can move on to. So I hope that's busted some of the myths around what makes a carrier good or bad for babies' hips. If you've got any questions about this, please do get in touch.